Good evening. I'm Holmes, and tonight we're going to talk about technology of textiles, rediscovering the lost art of textile storytelling. In general, when you ask people about technology, they think in terms of electronics, digital communications, and mobile applications. Advancements in technology have made us more responsive in the terms of the giving and receiving of information. The speed at which we can now exchange information is not only powerful, but can also be very dangerous. In 2013, according to Bloomberg News, this AP's false tweet, caused by a hack, wiped $136 billion from the S&P 500 index in about 2 minutes. We can see the ripple effect storytelling can have. And after such a contentious and visceral political season we've all experienced, it is most important that we humanize and communicate our stories. For the sake of humanity, this is a time for us to share our views, our voices, our histories, and identities. And instead of tweeting or posting blurbs of our filtered experiences, I contend that we should teach our children how to exchange information by way of the technology of quilting. As Thomas Friedman reminds us in his book, That Used to Be Us, technology is simply the way the work gets done. It is not necessarily something that is plugged in or booted up. Technology is a science or craft, and the art of quilting can produce bridges to our past. In 2007, my grandmother, who lived in Boston, was dying of pancreatic cancer. I flew up there to spend 3 weeks with her to gather information and gather some stories about her experiences that only she knew. At the time, I had no idea what I was going to do. With this information, I didn't know if I was going to make a digital scrapbook, so to speak, or a website of stories. I just didn't have any images to illustrate her experience. I didn't have a way to really make this realized. I didn't have a way to inform my children about our legacy. After all, how was I going to inform these people about these people? Our ancestors, for all intents and purposes, were faceless ghosts. That's when it came to me. I would quilt Nana stories and make an article that could be passed down throughout my family. The first quilt patch I made, titled The Slaughter, illustrates my great-great-grandfather, only known as John. He was kept in a barn in the Rocky Mount, North Carolina cotton mills. And after the massacre of his owners and overseers, this is the illustration that was developed. According to my grandmother, he was kept in this barn, and regardless of extreme and brutal efforts, could not be broken by the overseers. He eventually got out of the locked barn and slaughtered these men. Legend has it, it was later that he was killed for these actions. Another powerful story my grandmother told me was one of a church my family would host in the woods on Sundays. It's titled Sunday's Best. According to my grandmother, Aunt Sarah, she was a minister, and people would come from miles and miles away to hear her sermon. The church would praise, listen to music, and rejoice. But of note in this picture is the figure in the middle. This relative had a difficult time settling with the ideas of Christianity, the brutality of slavery, and wrestled with assimilation and conformity. In short, he wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid. In this patch, we see Henry burying all of the church's tithes and valuables in the dead of the night. According to legend, family jewels were buried in the hills of Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and no one knows of their discovery to this day. After seeing how excited my children were about storytelling and techniques, I reached out to a friend that owns a film company in Philadelphia called Little Filmmakers. It's a nonprofit organization that cultivates and empowers youth leaders in digital video production, mass media, and performance arts. The owner, Janine Spruill, has now incorporated this technology of quilt making into her curriculum as a means of team building, as a means of breaking the ice and informing one another. In short, students are encouraged to design their own quilts as a means of connecting with one another and exploring stories and fostering collaboration through technology. Each article created is unique, special, and of value, just like our children and students. Again, I contend that this is the time for us to build bridges as opposed to building walls. And I see quilting as a means of doing so. Thank you.